You know what's a shame? Wasted potential. Like this new place we were doing business, which was all swooping walkways and ramps. A spectacular opportunity for hoverboard fun, except for the fact that it would probably cause a massive diplomatic incident. The locals were an exceptionally stuffy and dignified species. I couldn't tell if they walked that slowly out of choice or necessity, though the planters full of edible leaves every few yards felt like a clue. These guys were always chewing, as if they'd run out of the energy to move if they stopped. I don't know. Maybe they were just like that for cultural reasons, but they kinda did look like koala sloths in fancy robes. And as much as I wanted to find something with wheels or thrusters to ride whooping down the walkways, I didn't want to get our courier ship blacklisted from this sector of space. So I just waited patiently while Captain Sunlight worked out the details, and I helped Paint and Mur transfer the pile of small boxes from their hoversleds to ours. I didn't even comment on the inefficiency of all these small crates and multiple hoversleds, when they could have had them strapped together in a pallet. Maybe the things came from multiple houses. Not my business. But then, one of the locals dropped a box. It landed on a corner and cracked right open to a chorus of horrified gasps, and its contents rolled out. A single glowy blue sphere, all sparkly and beautiful, the size of a bowling ball and just as fast. It gathered speed down the ramp while locals cried out helplessly. Well, if that's not my cue, I don't know what is. I jumped on a hoversled and flashed off after it, kicking madly to catch up. This was more awkward than I expected. I was out of practice. It had been a long time since I zipped between college classes on a proper board, and this was definitely not that. The little hoversled clearly wasn't built for speed. It vibrated under me like it was panicking about the velocity we were going, and I couldn't blame it. This ramp was a pretty straight one so far, which was great, because I had no real way to steer. I kicked to a proper pace, and now I balanced with both feet planted, and both arms out like an absolute amateur. But I didn't want to tip over. I was closing in on the ball. It made an ominous rumble along the floor. It was just 2 yards away. There was a corner coming up. The ball was 1 yard away. I crouched, and I grabbed it, tucking it against my chest with one arm while I clutched the edge of the hoversled with the other, sitting down just before I slammed into the clear wall at the corner. That was some painful skidding. I put my feet down to slow things further, which ended up spinning me around, dragging my feet behind me. But I didn't drop the ball, and I probably didn't get any friction burns through my sleeve, though I definitely have to check that later. For now, I was busy sliding to a stop and taking a few deep breaths before standing up. As my blood stopped pounding in my ears quite so loudly, the realization trickled in that people were making a lot of noise around me. Good noise, I think? Phew. It took a second to be sure, but those were cheers of praise. Either this ball was an important holy item, or the Suntide pulled to catch it was just that impressive. Possibly both. I wouldn't know until I got back up to the top, because there wasn't anyone nearby to ask. But they were hurrying down to meet me, as much as their species could be said to hurry. I found the height adjustment on the hoversled and raised it to where I could tow it without bending down, then started the long walk back up. I held the pretty blue sphere close. When the koala sloths met me in the middle, galloping with an undignified flapping of robes, they thanked me profusely for catching the high explosive, before it leveled the place. Multiple responses ran through my head. I ended on, "You might consider better packaging for it." They agreed, taking it from me, to my relief, and pulling the hoversled as well. By the time we reached the top, our entire crew was going to town with bubble wrap on the other boxes, and Captain Sunlight had arranged a significantly higher delivery fee.